Welcome to Board Certified, expert interview episodes about medical licensing exams and healthcare careers. I'm Tyler, founder of Achievable, and we offer affordable adaptive online prep courses for the USMLE Step 1, MCAT, PTCE, NPTE, and others. Each course contains everything you need to succeed, including comprehensive study guides, video lessons, thousands of practice questions powered by our memory enhancing algorithm, and full length practice exams. You can get a free trial of any course by going to achievable.me. And if you like it, be sure to use the code podcast to save 10%. Now, let's get started. Today we have Linda Abraham joining us from Accepted. Linda, very excited to have you on this podcast. I'd love if you could introduce yourself and your company.
Hi, as you said, I'm Linda Abraham. I am the founder of Accepted. I also was the co-founder and first president of the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants. I've been a graduate school admissions consultant, including medical school and many healthcare programs, starting in 1994. I've interviewed for our podcast, Admissions Straight Talk, probably most of the admissions directors for most of the med schools, or the plurality of them, that's for sure. So anyway, I'm happy to get started answering questions.
Today we're going to be talking about essentially like what medical schools are looking for when you apply. And this primarily applies to the MCAT audience, people that are looking to get into medical school first and foremost on their journey to become a medical doctor. And so I think that just kind of taking it from the top, what are the things that medical schools are really looking for? I think there's the standard, like obviously good grades are better than bad grades, right? Good test scores are better than bad test scores. But beyond that, what are the things that really make an applicant stand out?
Okay, so let's start with the basics, which are the academics. No medical school wants to admit somebody who's going to flunk out. So you have to give the medical
Yeah.
schools the confidence that you can do the work, which is usually via grades and test score, the MCAT in the case of medical schools. In addition, they want to know that you know as the applicant what you're getting into. They want to see some commitment to clinical medicine, not just research, clinical medicine, dealing with people, dealing with sick people, dealing with families under stress. They want to see that you've volunteered in a clinical capacity or worked in a clinical capacity. And again, that means interacting with patients and their families and other healthcare providers. Two, they want to see that you have a commitment to service and in particular are willing and able to interact with, communicate with people who are different from you, and especially people who are disadvantaged, people who may not have the same access to health care that you have if you're from an advantaged background. So they usually want to see some form of community service, and community service not just in the form of tutoring other college students, but community service to people who may be really down and out. Think soup kitchens, think homeless shelters, this kind of service commitment. There are also research-oriented medical schools that will definitely want to see research in your profile. This is particularly true of the elite medical schools, the top 15 or whatever, but there are others also that really value research. So in that case, it's important that you have done some serious research, but that's not true of all
Hmm.
schools. And then the last thing they're looking for are certain character traits. Every admissions committee member wants to believe that you would have the compassion, the kindness, communication skills to take care of them or their loved one. So you
Hmm.
have to have those traits. You can't just claim them. They have to come through in your essays, your most meaningful experience essays, your secondary applications, your interview. And so it's the experience, and that should be revealing not only your commitment and preparedness for medical school, but the character traits that medical schools will value.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because I obviously know that grades are important and your MCAT score is important, but you spent most of your time talking about sort of intangible things. And so, why is it that those intangibles are so important in today's admissions landscape, especially when things are so competitive?
Well, the four of the five things I listed, I think, have been qualification for American medical schools for a long time, certainly as long as I've been doing this, as long as I've been an admissions consultant. And that would be academic foundation, commitment to clinical practice and knowing what it involves, because it's hard. It can be very rewarding, but it's not an easy path. Research, if you're interested in a research oriented program, and then those personal qualities that I'm talking about compassion, kindness, communications abilities. Those are things that have been desirable in medical school for as long as I've been around. What was added probably in the last 20 years, 15, 20 years, was this commitment to service, specifically service to the underserved. And I think that is because there's a growing recognition that medical care is not equal, and there's a belief in medical school higher education that doctors should be not only treating those people who come to them, but perhaps reaching out to improve medical care across the board. Did I
Great.
answer your
Yeah,
question?
I think so. I mean, I think maybe I had misunderstood what you said to think that this was kind of new, but it sounds like you've hinted at it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
so is this kind of like the DNA of the medical profession, this idea that you're helping others?
I
Because
hope so.
certainly, I mean, it's also well paying and it's also very accomplished, right? So I think a lot of people also look at it for those reasons. But I think it's good. I mean, I think it's good that obviously if you're in healthcare, you should probably want to be helping people.
Exactly. 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 Yes.
Yes. So then, like in the admissions process, how do schools kind of weigh all these different factors? Obviously, it is an admissions process, and so therefore you as a school know that they're going to be presenting themselves as sort of Mother Teresa reincarnate regardless. But certainly if you're debating, and obviously you're kind of looking at this from one side of the table, but if you're debating between two people and one of them feels like a lot more empathetic and the other feels more academically strong, do different schools kind of handle that decision differently, or is there any kind of feedback you can give on how schools approach that decision?
Schools approach it holistically. So I recently interviewed somebody, not for an MD program, who does have like a very mathematical approach. You get so many points for this, so many points for that. But in general, they do it holistically, which means that they're not only looking for the best medical school applicants, they're looking to create a medical school community. And if you're going to say, look, you meet the threshold for academics, I think you can
Mhm.
handle the academics. Well, there are more people who can handle the academics applying to medical school than there are spots. So then the other things come very much into play. This commitment to clinical medicine is absolutely required. They don't want to admit somebody who doesn't know what they're getting into, who's just doing it because their aunt told them to, which is one thing I once heard. They want people who know what they're getting into, who are willing to get their hands dirty, who are willing to work the long hours that medicine does require, it demands. And they want to know you're going to do it because they don't want you to drop out. They don't want you to leave the field because there's a doctor shortage. So that's been around for a long time. How they weigh it up exactly in different schools, I couldn't tell you that. I suspect it might vary even between the period of time in the application cycle. So, for example, at the beginning of the application cycle, the class is open. They might take a risk, more willing to take a risk or two. As the class fills up, though, why should they take a risk? And there's one other thing that I didn't mention before, which I think is really important, and that is that you show fit with the individual programs. And
Right.
that's not so much, something that you prepare for ahead of time, other than doing the research to be able to show it and making intelligent choices about where you're applying. But it's not something, something you're going to show, in particular in secondary applications and in interviews.
Yeah, and I wanted to follow up on that. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, I think that you would want to build an application where you really want to go to the specific program and you do research work, clinical experience, and volunteering that are all kind of aligned, but that might only be something you can do for one or maybe a small handful of programs, and then the rest of your programs are going to be a little bit off, right? Or there's something about them that's a little different. How important do you think it is to kind of align those things? Do you think it's good to have different types of clinical experience or even have a volunteering, like maybe fill a gap that your clinical experience didn't cover? Or would you rather see everybody is doing everything in the same subsection of the field?
I think it's important for applicants to have a few different exposures to medicine, but I don't think you have to like consciously shadow a pediatrician, shadow a gerontologist, shadow a cardiologist, shadow a psychiatrist or something like that. Actually, I don't think you have to work for all those people. Shadowing is a good way to get exposure to different parts of medicine with a relatively small time commitment. It is not a good place to end your exposure to clinical medicine because it doesn't require much commitment. But to broaden your exposure, to get a better idea of the other fields, it's really, really good. Now, to answer your question, should one focus on one area of medicine or volunteer for 1 year in one place, 1 year in another place, this kind of thing? I think if you're really doing something that you love, and it's one thing, as long as you do have some other exposure, perhaps via shadowing, continue doing it. You're growing in it, you're getting more responsibility, you're learning. Continue. If you start to stagnate in whatever volunteer commitment you're aiming for, then it might be time to move on.
Yeah, I think that also kind of leads a little bit to my second question on this topic, which is there a hierarchy of these three things? I would imagine my guess would be it'd be clinical experience, then research, then volunteering. Is that roughly accurate?
I would actually change it slightly. I would say clinical, again, academics are foundational. Okay, so we're assuming
Right,
that you got it, you're competitive there. Clinical experience
right.
is absolutely required. I would say then it's the community service or the service to the underserved, and then research, because research is a nice to have at most medical schools. It is not a requirement at most, or at least many of them, unless it's a research oriented program, and then it is a requirement, and you've got to make sure you have it, or you're just not going to show fit.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, good to know again, like that the research is not necessarily required for every school if the school is not a
No, it's
research-based
not.
school.
It's not. Just go back to one other thing you said earlier. You
Sure.
were saying that, let's say, you can aim your application at a particular school, but then the others are not going to follow suit. I think one of the complaints I hear most from medical school applicants is that the schools all sound the same. So, how can you show fit?
Hmm. Right.
There is a lot of overlap. Now, I think it's important for the applicants to recognize the nuances and the slight differences between the schools so that they can address those things that appeal to them that are more distinctive in a particular school's program or approach to medical education or community outreach or whatever, because there are some differences. And there are differences among the applicants. And also realize that schools, they're not just interested, you ask how to stand out in what you've done that's specifically related to medical school. They also realize that they're admitting human beings. So if somebody is a violinist or somebody's a pastry chef or somebody's a triathlete, that's also of interest to medical schools. And it's one way that applicants can distinguish themselves is with their non-academic, non-medically related activities.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that, right? Because
Okay.
I would say I think almost any job would love to hear that you're the captain of the varsity whatever team because it just shows leadership and a bit more organization and drive maybe. But how else do things that are non-medical, it would be the way to put it, like factor into an application? And what are some good examples of things that medical schools would really like to see?
Well, first of all, I don't know that like to see, but they would appreciate somebody who's not a bio major. Maybe you were a music major. You took all your science pre-meds, assuming you like music. You took all your science pre-meds and you did well in all your science pre-meds and you did the clinical and you did the research if relevant and you did the community service, but your real true love is music and you were a music major. Well, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. It actually will distinguish you, help you distinguish yourself in your application. All right, or
Mhm.
maybe you're a pastry chef. Oh, other than the fact that they might be afraid of gaining weight, they're going to love it. You know, there's all kinds of ways that people distinguish themselves. And what I want to get away from is this idea that you have to climb Mount Everest or swim the English Channel or do something absolutely crazy to distinguish yourself. You can distinguish yourself just by having some interests outside of getting into medical school
Right.
and pursuing them.
Yeah. Are there specific things that maybe it's like a personal quality besides just like I'm a more interesting person than just wanting to get into medical school? Are there certain qualities that you're going to want to try to highlight? Like, for instance, resilience might be like an obvious one that you're trying to highlight. Maybe you should tell a story about how, you got kicked off of the marching band, but then you made your way back on or whatever it is.
Sure. That could be a great story. It could be, gosh, there's so many stories, much more significant than getting kicked off the marching band and then making your way
Mhm.
back on. They're I like the marching band one because it means it's not a story of terrible suffering, but people
Right.
do go through really tough times or loss or trauma, and they come back. Now, what I would encourage somebody telling such a story is that you focus on the resilience, the coming back, and not the tragedy, the loss, or the difficult time. Yeah, you got to tell that part to tell the second part, but focus much more on the second part.
Yeah. Are there any other qualities in that vein, right, like resilience, that are, for lack of a better word, like a little vague, that you feel like medical schools like to look for?
Well, they definitely like to look for leadership. You mentioned that earlier. Resilience, compassion, I mentioned. I think that's definitely an important quality for a doctor. Communication skills. They're going to be explaining complex concepts to people who don't know as much as they do, and they have to be able to explain it so that patients can make decisions and have some sense of what is going on in their body or their loved one's body. So those are all skills. And I want to emphasize again, it's not just that you claim the quality, but that the stories you tell in your essays and the answers you give demonstrate, show those qualities.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really is a good summary. I think you've painted a good picture of the basics of like what medical schools are going to look for. Are there any things that I haven't asked you about that you think would be important to include?
Well, I think we might get to this in a later video, but the other thing I would urge medical school students to do is not rush. Dr. Barry Rothman of Accepted, uh, he likes to say the fastest way to medical school is slowly. So if you are now, let's say, a freshman in college or perhaps even a senior in high school and you say, I want to be a doctor. Well, and then you hear me talk and you say, well, I got to keep up my high GPA. I'm going to need to take an MCAT and get a great score on that. And I'm supposed to do clinical volunteering, research, community service. How can I get it all done in 4 years? That's a really good question. So don't get it done in 4 years. Take 5. I mean, you got to maintain that GPA. So don't, if your GPA takes a hit, it's GPA repair. It's really hard to fix. Don't do it. Take the time, maybe take a slightly lower load, particularly if you have to work while going to school. Maybe plan on taking that gap year so you could get a medical job. There's different things that you can do, but don't feel compelled to go straight from college to medical school or like you're a failure if you take longer. You might be really being really smart. And that might allow you, by the way, to do some of those extracurricular activities that will really add interest to your application and your profile.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a great segue into my last question for today, which is what are some of the common mistakes that people make that you see over and over again that you just want to recommend people avoid?
Oh gosh, I recently did I think it's a 9-part video series on the most common mistakes in medical school applications. One of them is rushing, both rushing to apply and then rushing in the application process. Another one is choosing the wrong schools to apply to. And by the way, in the videos, which you can find on YouTube very easily, if you just search for Linda Abraham Common Medical School Application Mistakes, you'll find it right away.
Mm.
Choosing the wrong schools, the counterpart to that would be how to choose the right ones. Writing vague, generic essays. So, how do you write essays that are more engaging and specific and help distinguish you? Those are all part of the series. And again, just do a search for it on YouTube and it should come right up.
Great. Yeah, I'll also include a link to one of those in the episode description. But yeah, I think that that all sounds great. Anything else before we wrap up today?
I just wish everybody good luck with their medical school application process. And remember, the fastest way to medical school can be slowly.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been Board Certified, hosted by Tyler from Achievable with Linda Abraham from Accepted. And Achievable has great online courses for the USMLE Step 1, MCAT, PTCE, NPTE, and others, and you can try them out for free by going to achievable.me.